Oh, there you are, YouTube. Do. Subscribe if you're interested, but also no pressure. Hey, so I just got out of the movie Weapons. Actually, it was probably like, I don't know, 6 hours ago when I got out of it. But anyway, Weapons, directed by Cregger, who also directed Barbarian. And that's actually kind of a, I don't know, funny to me portion of this story I'm going to tell. I had forgotten that I didn't really know Cregger by name, and we're watching this movie, and I remember the trailer, and the trailer had a serious vibe to it, and I did remember it being like a horror film, so that like having a supernatural element to it. But I also remember it feeling very. Actually, here, let me tell you something. I'm going to talk about this like you've seen the movie, so this is going to be spoilery here. This whole review. So yeah, let me talk to you like you've seen the film, if you're okay with that. So yeah, go in thinking to this review, expecting spoilers probably. So I go into the movie expecting it to be serious. I kind of envisioned it having, because based on the trailer, and forgetting who directed it, because my wife did tell me, but that just left my mind, right? So I went in thinking I was going to see something like the movie Prisoners. Prisoners isn't horror, but it kind of like had that vibe the trailer did, at least what I could recollect. And also I was thinking maybe like Black Phone, because I knew the sort of horrorness to it. So that's what I'm going in thinking. This movie is going to take itself super seriously. And then things started feeling a little silly, like I was like laughing a little bit, like chuckling. Things just sort of like started out very serious and then just kind of got these moments where a laugh happened. But that's not unusual for, a darker thriller or a more serious horror film. They'll toss in a joke here and there. Not saying this is a comedy, but just kept like chuckling here and there. And then that moment when we see the principal running, I like leaned over to my wife and I was like, did you say that this was the same person that did Barbarian? Like that, when he was running, it just like jogged my memory. And then and then she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. It all clicked. Because if you've seen Barbarian, you know that movie just like went off the walls, weird, strange. The tonal shifts were wild, like I've never seen before. And that's sort of what this movie does. And again, I feel like, this is a spoiler review, so I can't tell you to go in blind, but I hope everybody that does see it goes in blind, because it was so surprising and fun to experience what I experienced, because like I said, I went in thinking movie was going to be like Prisoners. And then it just went off the wall wild. And even when I was realizing, who directed it, it still went in a bunch of weird places, and it still had like maybe a more serious vibe to it than Barbarian, but also funnier. And so, I don't know. It is just tonally very unique, just like Barbarian was. If you think that about Barbarian, I certainly do. But another cool thing about it was its structure. So we're seeing sort of this event happen from multiple points of view, as you know, because you've seen it. And I thought that was really cool. That was nice to see. And I felt like, not that we haven't seen that in other films. We've definitely seen that in other movies. But I was trying to think of any like horror films that I've seen that in. And I don't know, I couldn't think of any off the top of my head, but that was really cool to see. I thought that was a nice, fresh thing for, mainstream horror. That was nice. I think it's me. I don't know who produced this. Yeah, I don't know. That was really cool. And someone behind me, early on, was like, what's going, I'm having a really tough time following along. And then my wife, she looks over at me like, what? This is pretty straightforward. And we talked about it afterwards, how kind of, it does jump around, but it does so in a pretty straightforward way. It even almost has like chapter titles, or that's not really what it is. As you know, I keep forgetting that this is spoilers, so you've seen it. But it even like as we basically we're following one person, and it starts with their name, right? And then it stops their story, and then it like rewinds, but then it tells that story from this next character's point of view. And when that portion of the movie starts, it says that person's name in front of it. And then it's like, and then now we're going to follow James, and now we're going to follow this person, and now we're going to follow this person. And so it's just very easy to follow along with, I thought. But the person behind us, I don't know if they'd ever seen a movie sort of told from multiple points of view, sort of Picasso style like this, and they were like not quite understanding it. But I thought it was a really entertaining movie. I liked all of the tonal shifts because I think what's unique is they aren't the comedy humor, whatever it is used to break tension like you see in a lot of horror films, but there's like almost like an absurdistness and a grotesque and a body horror. I don't know, would you call that body horror? Just gore is probably the better way to put it, not body horror. And I don't know, there's just an over the topness, a campy over the topness that fits in a like a world of realism. It's almost like the Pee Wee Herman movies. Like he's a cartoon, but everyone else is like normal. Like, you know, like when Big Top Pee Wee, when they roll into town, you know, I don't know. It's very strange. It's like, here we go. This is an action movie, but so this doesn't really count either because it's a comedy. But I was thinking like Last Action Hero. You know, we got the world of this realistic world, but then you have that cat. I think Danny DeVito does the voice, the animated cat in the movie, and nobody thinks it's strange, right? I don't know. It's almost like that. Also, like the movie A Ghost Story. That one is, you know, serious all the way through, but the imagery of that classic cartoonish ghost look is a great contrast to the seriousness of the film. And I feel like that's how this movie is. It's like that campiness, campy gore humor, uncomfortableness is an interesting contrast to also how the movie feels and visually like it's taking place in the movie Prisoners, sort of. Am I making sense? Those were kind of the vibes I was getting from it. Two things that were unrealistic about the movie that I noticed when Ozark, old girl from Ozark, Silver Surfer, when she's in her house and someone's like knocking at the door and she's like, scared, who is it, or whatever. Like she had the blinds on the right were shut, but the other ones were open. I feel like if you're in that much fear and stuff, you're going to close those blinds. That was all strange to me. Why weren't those closed? Also, what is she, a teacher? She's a teacher and she is single and has a house like that. That is impressive. That is wild. One salary, one teacher salary, and a nice house like that. Sure, her fridge was old, but it looked nice. Also, that old fridge and maybe her styling. I mean, maybe that's the style. I don't know. I don't know anything about style anymore. But it sort of had also an It Follows feel in terms of like era this was taking place. But we do have cell phones. But you know how like It Follows, it feels like it's like an amalgamation of like 80s, 90s, and, you know, 2010s or something, and in the future. I felt like this movie had that for a little bit in the early stages. I was like, wait, when does this take place? Then I saw a cell phone and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. And then it ends up being a witch movie. I guess that's the big spoiler. And I like how late it was when that was revealed. And also that was old girl from she's in the movie Basquiat. She plays Peggy Guggenheim in Basquiat. Can't think of her name right now. She's also in Field of Dreams and everything. Yeah, I'm sorry, blanking on her name right now. But I didn't recognize her right away. Like there's that conference she has that she sits down with the principal, and I didn't recognize her at all. It wasn't until she walked in and I heard her voice more, and I was like, oh my goodness, Peggy Guggenheim from Basquiat. So yeah, that was all cool. I liked all of that, and there were like things that I thought were going to be plot holes, and they patched them all up in the movie. Like the little kid, I was like, well, if his parents like had to have like met with the cops or something because he was the only kid left. I was like, are they just gonna like forget that? Because they're like, he met with the cops, but like his parents would have had to have also like gotten him to speak with the police. And I was like, are they just gonna ignore all that? Because some movies do that. Like School of Rock totally ignores the fact that Dewey Finn would have been fully arrested, Ned Schneebly. And I thought this movie was just going to ignore that with the interrogation of the kid and the parents not being there, but they found a way to make it all work, and it was just great. I was glad they didn't leave that. I was glad they answered those questions. So anyway, I thought it was an entertaining movie. I really like Cregger's style. It's just like, what the heck is going on? Because of the setting. I feel like the setting has such a strong sense of realism, and then everything is so wacky, and then it's like, this is too wacky, and I like that. Anyway, what did you think of Weapons? I found it entertaining, and kind of nice to see a change in structure in storytelling. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I wouldn't say it's like the movie of the year, the horror movie of the year. To me, the horror movie of the year is still 28 years later. But I don't know. I liked it. I find this guy, Cregger's, refreshing. What else does he have? I only know those two. This and Barbarian. Does he got more stuff? But it was a pleasing watch. Also, one of my old buddies was there, so that was cool to see him again. Anyway, that means nothing to you, but it was really cool to see him there. He's a big horror guy. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of the movie? I'd love to hear your comments on it below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, and perhaps we'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.